To crack hard palm nuts, capuchins need a good stone hammer, an anvil, and, of course, the nut. When a good stone is at the anvil, capuchins use it as a hammer. Since it is already there, they don't need to select it. How do capuchins behave if the hammer is lacking? Do they search for a functional stone to take to the anvil? As the Swiss primatologist Hans Kummer argued, experiments are necessary to complement field studies. In our case, an experiment can show that the monkeys indeed select their hammer stones deliberately. In Fazenda Boa Vista, the vast majority of loose stones break when pounded on nuts. Sandstones cannot be used as hammers. In contrast, harder stones like this quartzite do not break when pounded. Fazenda Boa Vista has a rocky appearance. Here, however, quartzites and hard stones are extremely rare. To determine if capuchins select hammer stones deliberately, rather than simply using the stone already present at the anvil, we carried out an experiment. This is our field laboratory, an area that capuchins frequently visit. Before running the experiment, we removed all the functional hammer stones from the area. 8 capuchins that habitually used hammer stones voluntarily participated in all 5 conditions in our experiment. In each trial, the subject chose one stone out of 2 or 3 we provided and used it to crack open a nut on a nearby anvil. In each trial of condition 1, we put out a pair of stones. Each pair consists of a friable weathered sandstone above and a harder siltstone below, similar in shape and both weighing about 1 kilogram. These stones are similar to those capuchins encounter in their habitat. Only the siltstone can crack a nut. This adult male collects the nut we left on the anvil and immediately goes to the pair of stones we had put out for him. He heads towards the harder stone and carries it to the anvil. Then he repeatedly strikes the nut, which often flies off the anvil. It takes him 10 strikes to crack the nut. All capuchins selected the harder stone. A stone must also be heavy to be an effective hammer. In condition 2, the pair of stones were light quartzite, above, weighing on average 260 grams, and heavy quartzite, below, weighing on average 1 kilogram. This adult female has a nut. Immediately she selects the heavier quartzite. Transporting the larger stone is challenging for her, yet she chooses to carry it to an anvil further away from the experimenter instead of transporting it to the closest anvil. But she has a good reason for doing so. She gave birth during the night, and her newborn is clinging transversely across her shoulders. Thus, she is particularly vigilant and hungry. All the capuchins recognized the heavier stone by sight and selected it and used it. Now the choice involves artificial stones made of resin whose size and weight is as we want them to be to answer specific questions. In condition 3, the stones of each pair have the same shape, the same color, but not the same weight. One is about 100 grams, while the other is more than 1 kilogram. These 2 stones look the same, but the first one he touches is so light that transporting it to the anvil will be a waste of time. Also, it sounds hollow when tapped. Better to check the other stone. This is indeed heavy enough to use. In this condition, 7 out of 8 Capuchins consistently selected the functional stone. Usually, weight is correlated with size, and humans use size to predict weight, especially if objects appear to be of the same familiar material. In condition 4, the smaller stone of each pair is heavier than the bigger stone. In this situation, weight cannot be judged by sight, but only detected by manipulating the object. This adult male has a nut. First, he touches the small heavy stone. Then, he goes to the other one, which seems more promising by sight, but actually, it's very light. Thus, he switches back to the smaller stone, which he then carries to the anvil, adopting an almost erect bipedal posture. All 8 Capuchins selected the heavier stone, despite its smaller size, thus recognizing that weight is more important than size. In the 5th condition, there are 2 large stones, one very heavy and one very light. The small stone is also light. This adult male first touches the small light one and then abandons it. Then he switches to the big one in the middle. This stone weighs about 2 kilos. It is really a lot for this young adult male. Better to check the 3rd stone. Unfortunately, despite being large, it weighs almost nothing. There is only 1 stone worth transporting. With evident effort, he carries it to the anvil. With this very heavy stone, he makes only 2 strikes. All Capuchins transported and used the heavier stone. Tapping is used to recognize whether nuts are full or empty. Capuchins often tapped the artificial stones, probably to generate acoustic information. When tapped, denser objects produce different sounds than less dense objects. By tapping, Capuchins were able to infer whether stones were heavy or light. Wild Capuchins have a lifelong experience handling a wide variety of stones. This rich knowledge allows them to use stones to crack nuts, even in the challenging situations which we made for them. Since 2007, Capuchins are weighed once a year with an electronic scale. The metal bowl contains water. If a Capuchin wants to drink, it has to sit on the scale. The weight is displayed on a digital screen connected to the scale with a cable. Its weight is measured accurately only when a monkey is stationary and fully supported by the scale. Before we devised this technique, the weight of wild Capuchin monkeys was almost unknown. The weight of adult females ranges from 1.9 to 2.2 kilograms. That of adult males from 3.3 to 4.4 kilograms. The largest is the dominant male. Weights of males and females differ more than expected. Soon, the longitudinal records will show how these differences come about. Body weight is the single best predictor of efficiency in cracking nuts. Adult male capuchins who weigh more than adult females crack nuts more efficiently than do females. This may explain why males crack nuts more often than females. When there is no hammer stone on the anvil, capuchins have to carry one there to crack a nut. Typically, they carry the tool in both hands and move bipedally. This male weighs 4.4 kilograms and he is transporting a 1.8 kilograms stone to the anvil. Capuchins move bipedally with a bent hip, bent knee gait. Body mass strongly affects posture during transport. While transporting a 900-gram stone 2 meters, this adult male keeps the stone at a relatively large distance from his chest, while this adult female holds the same stone in a closer position. The inclination of the trunk is about the same in the two monkeys. Capuchins walk faster when carrying a heavy load. Probably this helps their balance. Here, an adult female is carrying a 1 kilogram stone. Her mechanics closely approximate humans' running mechanics. Dynamic analysis demonstrated that extending the tail helps balance the body while monkeys carry stones. Despite constituting just 5% of the body's weight, the tail has a fundamental role. Sometimes capuchins have to carry stones to elevated anvils. This adult male jumps vertically 60 centimeters while holding a 1.4 kilogram stone. Given the costs of transport, capuchins choosing which stone to carry to an anvil should balance the benefits of cracking with a heavier stone against the costs of transporting the stone. Here, a 2 kilogram stone is 4 meters from the anvil and a small 0.6 kilogram stone is on the anvil. When given the very resistant piassava nuts, all capuchins carried the heavier stone for 4 meters rather than employing the ready-to-use lighter one on the anvil. To explore how monkeys balance stone mass and distance of transport when selecting a hammer, we carried out additional experiments. In this condition, we placed a heavy stone, weighing about 1.5 kilograms, 6 meters from the anvil, and a light stone, weighing about 1 kilogram, 3 meters from the anvil. The monkeys could use either stone, but they need fewer strikes with a heavier stone. This adult male takes the heavy stone and carries it to the anvil. He opens the nut in 1 strike. In another condition, the light stone is 6 meters from the anvil and the heavy stone is 3 meters from the anvil. The same adult male disregards the small one and selects the heavier one. Again, success comes soon. Capuchins who weighed more than 3 kilograms behaved like this adult male. They chose the heavy stone regardless of distance of transport. In contrast, for the capuchins that weighed less than 3 kilograms, transporting the heavy stone for 6 meters was too demanding. But the lighter stone was sometimes ineffective. Though this female had struck the nut many times, it did not break, and thus she abandons it. This adult male was the only individual who, despite his 3 kilos, did not choose the heavy stone when it was 6 meters from the anvil. He has only 1 foot, and this physical handicap hampers his bipedal locomotion. Overall, individual capuchins differ greatly in their sensitivity to transport distance, and the monkey's body mass is the best predictor of its preferences. Cracking a palm nut on an anvil is not as simple as you might think. Nuts fly off the anvil and nuts roll away. Do capuchins place nuts strategically so that they are less likely to fly off the anvil? No doubt, they are fussy about where to place nuts. Capuchins definitely put the nuts in pits to crack them. Nevertheless, the nut can still fly or roll away, and then it has to be recovered. Do capuchins position nuts on the anvil in a precise way? We ran an experiment to find out what the monkeys do. These piassava nuts are more than 20 times harder than walnuts. They have an irregular oval shape. We tested whether capuchins take into account the shape of the nut when they place it in the pit. We rolled nuts on a flat surface to assess how their shape affects stability on a flat surface. When a nut stopped rolling, we marked the side facing up with a black line and the side facing the ground with a hatched black line. This marking procedure allows us to see where the nut is flatter, that is, where it stops rolling, and where it is rounder. Blindfolded people asked to place a piassava on an anvil as if to crack it, search for the best fit. They placed the nut with one of the lines facing up, with the rounder side facing the lateral sides of the pit. Humans can feel when the nut is in a stable position without seeing what they are doing. Capuchins do the same. They position the marked piassava nut with one of the black lines always facing up. In this way, the nut does not roll